All right. I am finally doing my World Cup predictions. Sorry, and for being late as usual. I'm doing this after the Qatar versus Ecuador game. That's how you say it, by the way. Qatar, not Qatar, or whatever the hell they're saying now. Um, and so yeah, let's just dive in, I guess. Okay, Group A: Qatar, Ecuador, obviously, Senegal, and the Netherlands. Um, I did notes for all these teams. I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna tell you the player to watch, so to say. That's not necessarily their star player. That's like it's not Neymar for Brazil. I mean, obviously he's the star, but everybody already knows that. So I skipped over to the next guy, I guess. On each of those teams that have like a genuine superstar, I guess. For I guess I'll just start with the game today. I mean, they rocked my world with the fucking opening ceremony, and then Qatar just gave one of the worst performances I've ever seen in my life. Only one dude on the entire field looked like he could control a football, and that's my player to watch, Akram Afif, the 2019 Asian Player of the Year. And honestly, just the gulf in quality between him and everybody else on the team is just so high, and it's so clear, and you can see it. And the fact that he had to drop back to center back every single time he wanted to touch the ball. Look, they were bad, but they're not as bad as they played today. The nerves. They've never been on this stage before. The nerves got to them in a like completely different level. So maybe they'll play better against Senegal. I mean, they're not gonna win, but maybe at least play better. They give some dignity to themselves. The other team in the group was Ecuador. Obviously, my player to watch, and I did this before the game, was Enner Valencia, the Turkish league top scorer with 13 goals, 4 assists, and 12 appearances. I mean, now it kind of seems like I did this all over again. But anyway, yes, the scorer of Ecuador's last 5 World Cup goals, so an incredible record. And I mean, their qualification path was they were third in CONMEBOL, or was it? They were third in CONMEBOL qualifying, or fourth in CONMEBOL qualifying. And they actually had the second most goals, tied with Argentina, in the entire qualification process. So I thought that was very impressive. They got draws to Brazil and Argentina, and also impressive. And so yeah, I mean, they looked pretty good today. The one thing I would say is that I really don't know why they stopped at 2-0. Like, they kind of sat back and like tried to manage the game for some reason. When, I'm sorry, given the fact that literally last World Cup, Senegal went out on yellow cards. If you have an opportunity to score 10, you score 10, because you have no idea how much goal difference is going to matter throughout the tournament. And if the Qatar do this again, and they're going to be the battering ram of the damn group, and somebody's going to put 7 on them, and are you going to be the one that only put 2? Like, I don't understand why they did that. I thought that was a very, very big mistake in a 3-game tournament, in a 3-game group. I mean, like, I didn't really understand that. The other 2 groups, who I think will be playing tomorrow, we have Netherlands and Senegal. I mean, Senegal's player to watch, you know, I honestly put him between Ismail Sarr, Iliman and Diaye. I'm not going to pretend that I know all these names, I'm not going to lie. And Boulaye Dia, just because I would have, these basically, anyone who's going to replace Sadio Mane's goals. That's basically what the category was. Sarr for Watford, and Diaye for Sheffield United, and Boulaye Dia for Salernitana. That's the only one I've watched personally. Boulaye Dia's had a really nice season for Salernitana. I mean, anybody who's gonna, bring them any goals, that's gonna be the player to watch, and it's probably gonna be one of those 3. Their qualification path was beating Egypt a couple months after beating Egypt also, both on penalties to win AFCON and qualify for the World Cup. Which honestly shows you how insanely cruel African qualification process is. Thankfully, they will be getting 4 more spots in next World Cup, so that's going to be much improved. And finally, the last team in this group is the Netherlands. Their players to watch are I mean, Van Dijk is one of the players we watch. I think this is his first World Cup, and it's a big occasion for a player that's as established as him and as historic as him to be playing his first World Cup so late in his career. I think that's notable. And Depay, Memphis Depay, who will not be playing the first game against Senegal, I think he's the player to watch simply because I think we're going to see how bad their other attacking options are outside of him. They're qualified by topping their qualification group with Turkey and Norway. And I personally, I'm just going to, it's the safe option, but I think it's the right option. I'm going to have the Netherlands and Senegal qualifying with Ecuador third. You know what? I would have Ecuador second here, but like what I saw today from them, like taking their foot off the gas, I couldn't understand it, and I don't think the other two teams watched today's game and were like, when we play Qatar, we're stepping on their throats and we're trying to go for the kill. And Ecuador didn't do that. And honestly, goal difference just matters so much in this competition. So I'm going to have them at third, and I'll have, obviously, Qatar at fourth. For Group B, we have England, Iran, USA, and Wales, the group of socio-political war. Anyway, I think everybody has England topping the group, and I will also have England topping their group. Despite the fact that I'm lower on them than a lot of other people, I don't think they have a shot at winning this thing. But they're still going to top this group. Their player to watch, I thought, was Jude Bellingham. Again, I'm not including Kane, who's the obvious pick, but it was between Jude Bellingham and Saka, in my opinion. I think I'm not really sure if Bellingham is going to start. That is one thing that's up for question. So many of these players watch, they're teetering because a lot of them are young. They're teetering on, are they going to start, are they not? I think with the fact that Calvin Phillips just hasn't played football in so long, he has to start. And so if he does, that he'll be my player to watch. Qualification, they topped a weak-ass group as usual. I think they were their only competition was Poland. And, obviously they topped that group. So I have them first. Second, actually, is their opponents who are playing them tomorrow. I think Iran are gonna be second in this group because I don't think people have paid attention to that. This is basically, probably Iran's golden generation, if you can call something that. You can call it that. I mean, it's obviously relative to other, to the competition or to their history. You have Mehdi Taremi, who's 20 goals a season for Porto, great player even in the Champions League, showing up big. And Sardar Azmoun, another attacking force with 10 goals in the Asian qualification process, and they topped the group with South Korea. So I think those are my players to watch, and their qualification path was smooth as usual. They usually top their group in qualification. So I personally have them first in this group, and it has almost as much to do with them as it does with the US. The thing a lot has been made about the level of talent that the US has right now, and I agree. I think that this is some of the best talent that they've ever had. My issue is they've given it to a used car salesman, and I don't trust Greg Berhalter whatsoever. And I think if you look at their qualification path, they had 3 other teams from CONCACAF qualified: Costa Rica, Canada, and Mexico. In those 6 games against those teams, they had 1 win. I mean, I think that's as indicting as anything you can possibly say. They really haven't beaten a good team, neither in qualification nor in friendlies even. They haven't really beaten a good team in years. So as good as the talent is, I've never actually seen it applied and perform at any kind of stage. I think I saw recently that they gave the armband to my player to watch, Tyler Adams, who Tyler Adams was one of the first players. I watched him many years ago when he was at New York Red Bulls. I watched him live, and I had no idea who he was whatsoever. And he was so dominant in that game that I literally, once the game finished, I went on Google. I was like, okay, who the hell is this guy? That's how, to me, that's a sign of a great player. And I don't know who you are, but just pure, I'm paying attention to the game, and I immediately, you immediately stand out. I think Tyler Adams is going to have a great tournament. I think I've said for a while that I think he's the best U.S. national team player. out of this current crop. I think he's having a great season at Leeds, and he's going to continue going upward in the game. And finally, last and least, Wales, I'll have them fourth. I mean, their player to watch is just what? It's Bale, again. The 30-year-old Bale, who actually did have like a huge, he had a huge goal to send the MLS Cup final, despite the fact that he was not a starter for LAFC. And he was the huge signing, but he came off the bench and scored, I think, in the 120th minute to equalize for LAFC and send the MLS Cup final the penalties, which they won. So that was a big moment. I mean, he's still a big moment player, no doubt, but I don't think that's going to be enough to get this team wins. They finished second in their qualification group to Belgium and beat Scotland and Ukraine on their path to qualifying in this game, in this group. But I just don't see enough quality. The one thing that they will have towards their goal is I think they have as much tournament experience together as a team as probably anybody in the competition will. So that's their one positive. Group C, we got, I mean, I'm just going to get this out of the way. Argentina's finishing top. Argentina's player to watch, I mean, they're all notable. They're all known mostly, so I'm not going to pretend I'm discovering anything here. But I think my players to watch is Lautaro Martinez. Despite the fact that I say a lot of shit, I mean, I think most CAA fans justifiably say he goes on, droughts a lot throughout the season. But he also goes on great streaks. And he was their leader in goals and assists in qualifying. And I think if they will get him the ball, and I think despite some of his poor finishing, if he gets on a roll, that's all you need in a tournament, really. They finished second in CONMEBOL, and they had no losses in qualification, so I think that was very impressive. I mean, this group is not a difficult group. I can't see anybody last time they had Croatia in their group. I don't think there's any team even half as good as that. So I think it's smooth sailing in the first place for them. Second, I'm going to stick with the easy one, honestly. I'm just going to pick Poland. Their player to watch is, other than Lewandowski, obviously, who again we're skipping, I think Zielinski for Napoli has had an incredible start to the season. So I think him and his contribution with goals from midfield are going to be so important in this tournament. Because they're going to need a lot of creativity because that midfield is not very strong. Definitely not as strong as last tournament. So I think they're going to need a lot from him. A lot of, driving with the ball and also, popping up into the box and contributing with goals. Their qualification path, they were second to England, beat Sweden and technically Russia, but obviously they kicked them out for some, whatever, all that bullshit. They kicked Russia out, so basically they got a bye. Third in the group, I'm going to upset friends here, but fuck you, Raul and Gio. I'm putting Saudi at third. Saudi, their star topped a group, their qualification group with Japan and Australia. Only had one loss throughout the qualification process. So I think people are a little bit underestimating them. I'm not having them coming out of the group, but I think people are underestimating them, and they have Hervé Renard, who's done an incredible job at many different national teams in competitions. So I don't think you can ignore that experience either. This is also their second time in a row qualifying. So again, I don't think they'll be as phased as they were maybe the first time, and then they still got a win in their first in last time's tournament. I think the player to watch is Salim Dosari, who had 7 goals and 10 appearances in the qualification. He's a right winger, their star. They're going to be looking for him. He's the difference maker. If there's going to be creativity on the pitch, it's going to come from him. And they'll be relying on him a lot. And finally, last is Mexico. I mean, I just think maybe they're like a tournament early and a tournament late for some players. I would love to back, if Raul Jimenez was back and healthy and playing for Wolves and really contributing, he had that horrific head injury and all that, I would probably pick him to be third or maybe even compete for second, but I don't think there's anybody you can rely on for goals in this team. And so basically, the players to watch, I guess, is Irving Lozano, who has played well for Napoli. Not lit the world on fire, but he's played well, and he's going to be their go-to guy. And Raúl Jiménez is their other player to watch, just in case. Like if he was once a really good striker. If he recaptures some of that in a little magic in the bottle tournament, then they have something. But other than that, their qualification process, they drew with Canada and had 2 losses overall in qualifying. They didn't beat Canada in either game, so I think that speaks to something, I guess. And I have them end the bottom of the group. Sorry, Group D, we got. Again, I'm just gonna straight up go. It's France who's topping the group. France, I mean, the player to watch actually, I think is Griezmann, just because of how low his stock has dropped since last tournament. Actually, when he was considered as a mega superstar, I think his stock has dropped really low. And having watched him a bunch of times this year for Atleti, I mean, I think this dude's back, and they're gonna rely on him so much more now that Benzema is out of the tournament. Thank God. Anybody who follows me will know why. And yeah, I just think he's gonna be so crucial to all their. I mean, obviously Mbappe is the best player. He's the best player in the world, in my opinion. And so, but Griezmann is the player to watch in terms of, I think he's gonna be the biggest surprise. Seeing as how opinion about him has changed. Their qualification process, they topped the group with Ukraine, which is whatever. Second, I have Denmark. People have them as the dark horses. A lot of people I've seen have them as the dark horses. I'm not sure I'm going to go that far. And just generally, I don't think there's that many dark horses in a World Cup, seeing as there's never actually been an underdog that's won this competition. It's not like the Euros or any of these continental competitions where underdogs win every once in a while. An underdog has never won the World Cup. It's always been one of the elite 2 or 3 or 4 teams that have won it. For Denmark, I thought their player to watch is Andreas Skov Olsen. Anybody who's watched Serie A will remember him from his time at Bologna, but now he's at Club Brugge, and he's playing in the Champions League, and he was their top scorer in qualifying. I mean, they have him and Damsgaard, and they're both basically had the same journey in Italy. Damsgaard with Sampdoria. They were just inconsistent. You could see the talent, you could see the ability, but they were inconsistent. They could never nail down a spot. And now they're both at different clubs, and it's all going to come down to those guys. Are they going to bring in enough creativity? Because they don't have much of a strike force, really, with Jonas Wind and Yusuf Poulsen, and these guys that are half. You're not really relying on them for anything. So it's going to come down to those wingers. Are they going to be able to create enough and score enough to get this team, over the hump? Third, I have Tunisia, who, I'm going to just be straight up, they're going to play the worst football you've ever seen. I'm just telling you this right now. They will park the bus. They will park the bus so hard. It's actually going to be crazy. They're going to park the bus a lot. Their qualification process was actually hilarious. They beat Mali 1-0 in home, in aggregate. They played Mali away from home, and Mali scored an own goal in the 9th minute, and then for the remaining 81 minutes, they parked the bus and kept it at 1-0. Then in their home game, they parked the bus, kept it at 0-0, and went to the World Cup. So they will be incredibly boring, which will just be just enough to finish third. And their player to watch is Hannibal Mejbri. I mean, honestly, there's just not that much youth in this team. It's him, Anis Ben Slimane, and a couple others. But mostly, this is an old and experienced group. So I'm gonna highlight him. He's on loan at Birmingham City from United, and they're gonna rely on him a lot. If there's any creativity to be had, it's gonna be from him and Anis Ben Slimane. So I think that's gonna be interesting to watch. And finally, I have Australia, who, frankly, I've seen a lot of people give way too much credit. This team is not good. It's really bad, honestly. Their player to watch is Jamie McLaren. He's been the Australian League top scorer 3 years in a row. and he was their top scorer in qualifying, obviously. They finished third in their qualification group and then had to play the UAE and in a playoff game, and then they beat the UAE in extra time. Then they had to play a cross-continental playoff game against Peru and beat them in penalties. So basically nothing was convincing about anything they did all for the past 4 years. So I have them bottom of the group. Group E, we got Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. I think I'm going to top this group with Spain, as unconvinced as I am about their talent sometimes, but I still think they're better than the rest. Their players to watch will be Pedri and Ansu Fati, both well known, so I'm not really inventing anything here, but like they're going to need Ansu Fati's pace so badly because they have none of it anywhere on the pitch outside of him. And Pedri was phenomenal in the Euros, and I just think he's going to continue with the strong tournament. So he's just a great talent, so I guess, he's the player to watch. Their qualification was them topping a group with Sweden. It was simple, They actually only lost one time against Sweden. Not that Sweden is a weak team, by the way. But yeah, they topped that group, and I have them first. Second, I'm going to have Germany. Again, really unconvinced by their talent. More than Spain. But, better than the rest. I think their player to watch is Jamal Musiala. Also, known. But, there's not that much youth on the team. They topped the group with North Macedonia, which, it's just, some of these European groups are so pathetic. Like, the qualification process really has to get harder. They topped the group with North Macedonia, and that's all I have to say about them, honestly. They're underwhelming. They will underwhelm. The same way they underwhelmed at the Euros, they will underwhelm again here. Like, that's just what they are. And they will struggle with the heat, by the way. That's one other thing. Like, if I do can they handle the heat index, they're going to be really fucking low. Them, England, Netherlands, God, they're going to struggle so much with the heat. Third, I'm going to have Japan. Japan, I think their players... See, this is a weird one, right? Because they have, I think, a lot of talent, but their manager has gone... From the squad, from the research I did, what their predicted lineups are and, some of the call-ups. For example, their top scorer in qualifying... Yuya Osaka. I'm not going to pretend I knew that before. I know that off heart. But Yuya Osaka was their top scorer in qualifying with 10 goals. Joint top, with Minamino. And he was left out of the squad, really surprisingly. So that's a move that confuses me. Not that I watched them in Asian qualifying, and they were fine, not as good as they've been before. But I'm surprised by that move. So their players to watch, I think, is Minamino, Takumi Minamino, who was their joint top scorer with 10 goals also in qualifying, and Junya Ito, who had 13 goals and assists in qualifying and plays for Stade Reims. My thing is, I'm not really sure. Minamino's guaranteed to start, right? But Ito isn't. There's competition between him, Kubo, and Mitoma, all of whom are... It's a really tough... Gazeta had Ito not starting and Kubo starting instead, so I'm not sure exactly how it's all going to come out, but I guess we're going to have to see. I think, over the course of 3 games, probably everybody will get an opportunity, especially if they don't win the first time. And finally, Costa Rica. Their player to watch is Anthony Contreras. I don't know him. I don't know anything about him. He plays in the Costa Rican League, but he scored some important goals for them in qualifying. They finished 4th in the CONCACAF qualifying, and they beat out New Zealand. Not convincingly, by the way. New Zealand were much the better team in that game, and they beat them in the cross-continental playoff. So that's my order there. And Group F. This is the first actual shocker I have. I have Croatia topping the group. That's not a shocker, really. Croatia, players to watch. I wanted to go with Lovro Majer and, if I'm saying that name wrong, I don't know, and Luka Sucic, but neither of them I don't think either of them are going to be playing, and probably Vlasic is going to be playing, and Pasalic. alongside the Brozovic, Modric, and Kovacic, trio that's established. I think those guys might play more. So I think their players to watch will be Gvardiol. I'm gonna pretend that I know how to say that name. Gvardiol and Borna Sosa, who has a lot of goals and a lot of assists for Stuttgart. So he's a right back, and I guess he's one somebody watch. Somebody I've never watched before, but his stats jump off the page. So I guess it's gonna be something interesting to watch. Their qualification, they topped the group with Russia, and interestingly, during this, Russia only was behind Croatia by 1 point. Okay, 1 point. And they kicked them out of the damn competition because of outside stuff, which is just, there's hypocrisy there because they don't count other countries. You know which ones I'm talking about. But anyway. So I have Croatia topping the group. Second, I have Morocco. There's my shock. Belgium's third, by the way. And I'll just finish it off with Canada. That's my shock. Belgium are out of the groups. Morocco, I thought their player to watch was Ilyas Sher. It would have been Amin Harit, honestly. But he got injured in the last game of before the World Cup for Marseille, which is just an absolute devastating injury. And the or the next man up for them is going to be Ilyas Sher, which is why I think he's going to be such an interesting player to watch. He plays for QPR in the championship, and I think he's ready to give the step up. But I mean, the fact that he wasn't the man projected to start is going to be very interesting. Their qualification path was beating DR Congo 5-2 in aggregate. I mean, they just dominated, so there's not much to say there. And finally, my first actual shock is Belgium. I think most people would have Belgium qualifying, but I don't really see it with this group at all. Like, their players to watch, in my opinion, are Charles de Ketelaere, which is biased, and Luis Openda, just because Romelu Lukaku is expected not to play the first 2 games, right? And their next man up is Michy Batshuayi. And if you're going to go to war with Batshuayi up top, you might as well leave the tournament. So I think their only chance of actually doing anything is putting one of CDK or Openda up top, and maybe one of them has a great tournament. That's it. And I don't see I don't see them playing them, and I don't see them having a great tournament. And I think they're not going to qualify. They're not going to advance. And their qualification path was topping a group with Wales. And so, again, they didn't really have any competition. They've not really beaten any competition to speak of. So there's that. And finally, Canada, who, in their first World Cup in so long. Their player to watch is going to be Kyle Larin, who now plays for Club Brugge, formerly Besiktas. And he had 13 qualification goals, which is pretty impressive. They had, against the U.S. and Mexico, they had 2 wins and 2 draws, which I thought was very impressive. I think they're going to be fourth, but not an uncompetitive fourth. I think they're going to make games tough. So, and also, obviously, they have Alphonso Davies, which is like star power that you need in this tournament. All right, last 2 groups. Group G is Brazil. Obviously, Brazil's first. Brazil's player to watch, other than Neymar, is Vinicius, I guess. Not that he's unknown, but again, how many of these Brazil players are going to be unknown? They're all known. But I just think he's going to... they have so much talent. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change that up on the fly. No, their player to watch is Richarlison, who I think who's projected to start up top ahead of Gabriel Jesus, which is a move that really surprised me. And I think their tournament is going to really rely on can he pop. Personally, I've been a Richarlison doubter for a very long time, so I can see that. I can see it going that way. But he is talented. I'm not denying that. And they have a good alternative off the bench. So I think he is the player to watch because he can so easily be replaced. And he's being given a precious spot, leading the line for Brazil. So I think that's going to be fun to watch. Their qualification, these dudes are unbelievable. In 2018, they came into the tournament with a 12-win, 5-draw, and 1-loss record in the qualification. And then they came after that with now this year they have 14 wins and 3 draws, no losses in qualification. That's insane. That's actually insane. 14 wins, 3 draws, no losses. That's an incredible record. So I have them first. Second, I have Serbia. I just think the sheer amount of talent they have this time around is so high. It's so high. Their player to watch is Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. Serie A watchers will again say, point out the fact that he's been a star in the league for a very long time. I think he's about to show it on the world stage. He's been having, last season was one of his best seasons ever, and I think, this season he started on fire. I think he's just gonna go nuclear on this tournament, honestly. So I think he's gonna have a really, really good tournament. Their qualification was beating Portugal, was topping a group with Portugal in it and beating them in the last game in the 90th minute thanks to Mitrovic goal to top the group. I just think they've shown something so impressive to top a group with Portugal and to do it in that late fashion, 1-on-1. I think they've shown a lot of quality. And third, I'm going to have Cameroon. Cameroon have their players to watch are Zambo Anguissa, who, again, another Napoli player, has been playing out of his fucking mind for the past 2 years. Incredible midfielder. I'm very excited for people to see him on the world stage. He's an all-action midfielder. It's incredible to watch. And the other one is Choupo-Moting, who plays for Bayern and actually has 10 goals in his last 9 Bayern appearances, which is insane. The dude's been firing on all cylinders, which is going to make it very interesting because Vincent Aboubakar is Cameroon's, go-to guy, or has been for many years. And are they going to play them together is the question. Or, sometimes Choupo-Moting is playing on the left, behind the striker, and so on. So I'm interested if they go 2 up top. And finally, Switzerland. I put Switzerland last because, first of all, they're aging. So it's not like it's a blasphemous thing to say. They're aging. And also, I think the most talented player on their team doesn't look like he's actually going to play. And that's Noah Okafor, who plays for Salzburg. And I've watched him. We watched him against Milan twice. I thought he showed a lot of, flashes of a lot of talent. And I'm very surprised that, he barely featured in the qualifiers. He barely featured in the friendlies. He barely featured in the Nations League. And they're just kind of running out the same team that they had last time. Except this time, Xherdan Shaqiri doesn't play for Liverpool. He plays for the Chicago Fire. And he's all right there. He's not even lighting the MLS up on fire. So I have them last in the group. And finally, the last group. We have Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. Portugal have their flaws. Don't get me wrong. They have their flaws, but I have them topping the group. Player to watch is, come on, you can't be surprised by it. It's Rafael Leao. As established as of a name as I think he's becoming, he's not really guaranteed a starting position in this team. I think he's one of the most talented players in the world. I think he's one of the best dribblers in the world, one of the best creators in the world. And I'm excited to see him show the world that. So he's going to be my player to watch. I also just think he's the most exciting. He's one of the most exciting players in the world. He's pedal to the metal. Every single time he touches the ball, I'm on the edge of my seat because he might take on 3 men. And do it with such ease that he can do it 5 times. And it's incredible. So he's my player to watch. Their qualification, as we said, they finished below Serbia in the group. And beat Turkey and North Macedonia after North Macedonia knocked out Italy because they're fucking idiots. So yeah, I have them topping the group. Second, I have Uruguay. Their players to watch. They have a lot of players to watch. It's between Darwin Nunez, who I've not picked. I've picked instead Federico Valverde, who just had an incredible season. Again, not an unknown player. Incredible season for Real Madrid, goal-scoring wise, which is something they're going to really need. They're going to need his pace, they're going to need his physicality, and they're going to need his goal-scoring that he showed for Real Madrid. They're going to need all those things because Suarez is aging, and they're just going to need an extra level of oomph, and I think he's going to be able to give them that with his pace and physicality. They qualified third in CONMEBOL qualifying, and they had this is the funniest stat. They had a 0 goal difference. 0. They scored 22 goals and they conceded 22 goals. I've never in my life seen somebody finish third, in qualifying and have a 0 goal difference. It's insane. And I'm gonna have Ghana third and South Korea last. Ghana third. I'm gonna have my player to watch for them. They have a couple. That could easily, have a good tournament here. But I'm gonna go with the one I've actually watched the most. In honesty, I'm gonna go with Mohamed Kudus. I don't know if I said that right. If there was two emphasis and like K. Anyway, their qualification path. They beat Nigeria in a on away goals in their head-to-head. They beat them they drew 1-1 in Nigeria. I mean, again, showcasing how insane it is and how insane African qualifying is, that you can go head-to-head, not lose a game. First of all, top your group, right? Nigeria topped their qualification group. Then had to play a playoff against another group winner, right? And then didn't lose either game and still went out. I just think that's so insane given that Europe has 13 spots. But thankfully, we won't have to worry about that 48 team World Cup, which is exactly what it's about. It is about including the world, okay? It's not about, these games kind of suck. It doesn't matter, man. Don't watch them. It's about including the world. It's about inclusivity. That's the point of the damn World Cup. It's about the team that makes its debut, and it's like the entire world for that is this tournament for that month, for that country. Like, that's what it's all about. That's the point of the tournament. So yeah, I'm gonna actually leave this as just the group because I think we've gone way too long anyway. So I'm gonna leave this as just the group stage predictions, and then once this is all done, we'll review how I did, probably poorly given my prediction record, and then do knockout stages.